Good day, everyone. This is Mark Vella, and you're listening to Headline News. 25,000 troops stationed in the capital vetted for the inauguration of the new U.S. president. The inauguration of the new U.S. president will be held on January 20th. Unlike in the past, Washington, D.C. is under heavy security this year. The U.S. Army has previously confirmed that about 25,000 National Guard troops have been pouring into the Capitol. U.S. Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy said on Sunday, January 17th, "We're continually going through the process and taking second, third looks at every one of the individuals assigned to this operation, that the department is vetting all military personnel involved in order to clear any potential insider attack." McCarthy said a potential insider attack has been a consideration for law enforcement since the 9/11 attack in 2001. That's why the Army is conducting a second and third vetting of everyone assigned to the operation. He said Guard members are also getting training on how to identify potential insider threats. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, is currently vetting National Guard members who will be in Washington on January 20th to support the operation. But so far, he and other leaders have not seen evidence of any such threats. This year's presidential inauguration is designated as a National Special Security Event, NSSE, so the Secret Service will be the lead federal agency responsible for coordinating security for the event. Like many former presidents, Biden will be sworn in on the steps of the Capitol. However, the traditional Pennsylvania Avenue parade that would normally draw hundreds of thousands of Americans has been canceled and replaced with a virtual parade. The inaugural ball has also been canceled. Video captured on camera shows Washington streets blocked off as workers erect miles of barricades, fenced off with coiled barbed wire. Stores and offices were sealed off and military personnel increased. Military vehicles are parked on downtown streets and armed guards are checking the identity of those entering and leaving the city. And more street closures are scheduled through to January 20th. With the closures scheduled to be lifted at 6 a.m., January the 21st. Some bridges and interstate highways through Washington, D.C. are also scheduled to close at 6 a.m. on January 19th. Matt Miller, head of the U.S. Secret Service's Washington field office, said that the security setup in Washington will last from January 13th until the day after the presidential inauguration, which is January 21st. The FBI is tracking an extensive amount of concerning online chatter, including calls for armed protests leading up to next week's presidential inauguration, Director Christopher Wray said on Thursday. Wray, in his first public appearance since the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol, said that the FBI remains concerned about the potential for violence at protests and rallies. In an interview with the Fox show Ingram's Angle, Senator Rand Paul criticized the way the authorities responded to the January 6 incident in Congress, noting that individuals' civil liberties can be lost very quickly in times of crisis. Paul said the government either underreacts or overreacts, so I think there was too little security last week, and now we're going to become a militarized zone. And they're checking congressmen as they come in to see if they have a sharp pencil or a sharp pen. It's gotten ridiculous, so we'll see what happens and whether it's permanent. President Trump said a day after Congress certified Biden as the winner of the 2020 election that he would not attend Biden's inauguration. U.S. media. Director of National Intelligence confirms that the CCP sought to interfere in the election. Sources said that John Ratcliffe, the Director of National Intelligence, confirmed in a letter that the Chinese Communist Party sought to interfere in the 2020 U.S. election. He also noted that the CIA prevented the report from being made public as scheduled. According to the Washington Examiner this week, Ratcliffe mentioned in a letter, signed on January 7th, that intelligence about Chinese government CCP interference in the U.S. election was suppressed by the CIA's management. As a result, the National Intelligence Report on Foreign Interference in the election was not being submitted on schedule. According to the letter, Ratcliffe noted that, excluding other distractions such as politics and consolidating all available intelligence, the department concluded that the Chinese government, the CCP, sought to interfere in the U.S. election. The Director of National Intelligence did not respond to messages related to the letter. The Washington Examiner has not received official confirmation of the statements in question. On January 7th, Ratcliffe's office delivered an analysis to Congress that said intelligence officers had tried to downplay the influence of the CCP in the election. In the letter made public this week, Ratcliffe cited a report by intelligence community analysis monitor Barry Zuloff that some intelligence officers refused to include the Chinese Communist threat in the election interference because they disagreed with the Trump administration's policies. Ratcliffe noted that some of the analysts deliberately used different terminology to distinguish between similar actions by Russia and the Chinese Communist Party during the U.S. election, giving the impression that Russia interfered in the U.S. election and the Chinese Communist Party did not. He mentioned that two intelligence officials submitted a memo on October highlighting the impact of CCP interference in the election. However, the CIA management had intervened both individuals and threatened them to retract their statements. On December 16th last year, the National Intelligence's report on foreign interference in elections was delayed, the department said, because many agencies have not completed the integration of the finished product. Breitbart quoted sources familiar with the matter as saying that the report on foreign interference in the election was delayed because some intelligence analysts denied that the CCP was heavily involved in the elections and could not reach a consensus on the extent of the CCP's interference in the election. The sources said Ratcliffe wants an investigation that accurately reflects the extent of CCP interference in the election and argues that its investigation will be a sham if it does not correctly reflect the influence of the CCP in the election. Ratcliffe said in a December 3rd op-ed in the Wall Street Journal that the U.S. faces threats from all sides, from the military, the economy, supply chain issues, foreign investment to technology, 5G, and more, and that the Chinese Communist Party is the only country in all these areas, and the only country that threatens the U.S. Richard Grenell, former acting director of National Intelligence, also said on December 8th that everyone in the intelligence community knows that the CCP is a top U.S. national security concern. Left-wing retaliation forced pro-Trump law professor to resign. Attorney John Eastman represented the Trump campaign in its legal challenge to the presidential election results in Pennsylvania. He was forced to resign from his position as a law professor in Chapman University in California last week. According to the Epoch Times, Eastman is a famous conservative legal scholar who got attacked by the left for defending the Trump campaign. Left-wing radicals were particularly outraged when he spoke alongside President Trump at a Stop the Steal rally in Washington, D.C. on January 6. While the Stop the Steal rally was still going on at the other end of the Washington Mall, violence broke out. A riot started at the Capitol when Congress was confirming the presidential election results of each state. There is no evidence that Eastman or President Trump did anything unlawful by speaking at the rally. However, Chapman University President Daniel Strupa was quick to denounce Eastman's involvement in constitutionally protected free speech actions. In a January 8th statement, he accused Eastman of playing a role in the tragic events in Washington, D.C. that have jeopardized our democracy. Eastman's actions are in direct opposition to the values and beliefs of our institution, He has now put Chapman in the position of being publicly disparaged for the actions of a single faculty member, and for what many call my failure to punish and fire him, Strupa wrote. Strupa also said, "This week has also demonstrated that this country has a great deal of work to do for social justice and equity." 169 faculty and staff members from Chapman University signed an open letter addressed to the university calling for Eastman's dismissal. On January 13th, Strupa announced that he had reached a settlement with Eastman and that he would leave immediately. Strupa wrote that Eastman's departure closes this challenging chapter for Chapman and provides the most immediate and certain path forward for both the Chapman community and Dr. Eastman. Chapman and Dr. Eastman have agreed not to engage in legal actions of any kind, including any claim of defamation that may currently exist, as both parties move forward, he wrote. Eastman made a statement the next day accusing the university's board of trustees of publishing false defamatory statements about me without even the courtesy of contacting me beforehand to discuss. Had they bothered to discuss the matter with me, they could have learned that every statement I have made is backed up with documentary and/or expert evidence, and solidly grounded in law, Eastman wrote. Eastman's lawsuit is one of the several high-profile legal challenges brought by the Trump campaign and Trump supporters to election results in multiple states that are still pending before the Supreme Court. On January 11th, just 1 week before the presidential inauguration, the Supreme Court denied a request to expedite the cases. In a brief interview with the Epoch Times, Eastman said, "I can't talk about the agreement other than what is in my statement and the university statement. But yes, I think there are reprisals." The Epoch Times revealed that the Lincoln Project, a super PAC set up by anti-Trump Republicans, intentionally harassed the lawyers who provided legal services to the Trump campaign. Last November, the Lincoln Project promised to spend at least $500,000 on an advertising campaign against the law firms Jones Day and Porter Wright Morris and Arthur for defending Trump and the Pennsylvania Republican Party, according to a legal publication. The Lincoln Project doxed the lawyers for both companies and made their LinkedIn pages public on Twitter, along with the names and contact information of the lawyers who helped Trump. Attorney Cleta Mitchell had to resign as a partner from the law firm Foley and Lardner as a result of the Lincoln Project's actions. The New York State Bar Association is currently considering expelling Trump attorney and former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. The left is also urging disciplinary action against pro-Trump attorneys Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood. This concludes today's broadcast. Thank you for your time, and stay tuned for the next Headline News.